But I've been saved for about 20 years now. I've been saved, and I can tell you that living for the Lord is a good life. It's a real good life, Living for the Lord is a great life, a great life actually. I've been through lots of things. I've done lots of things, I've done things that I'm not proud of, I'm going to share my testimony. Maybe, I don't know, on this one. I wasn't really prepared. That's why I don't have a lot of things to say right now. So I'm just going to go off the dome and talk about some things like before in 2003. My daughter, she was only 3 years old in 2003. I had this little body shop in Detroit. I would fix up cars and stuff, and had a little paint shop. But at the end of my run there in mid 2003, it became more of a hangout than anything else. It became a hangout more than anything else. It became a hangout. So we would have guys over there. We would be smoking weed all day. And I was so addicted to weed back in 2003, and even before that, 10 years prior before that, I was so addicted to it. I didn't know what to do. The devil had me. The devil had me in his snare. And so people would come and hang out. We would get high all day. Girls coming by. I had people in there, sniffing cocaine, taking pills. I wasn't doing none of that stuff, but I just like to smoke weed. That was my thing. I just like to smoke weed. I would get high all day, every day. It got so bad that I couldn't even work, And my daughter, she was only 3 years old at the time, and she was at home with my brother, my mom. I was neglecting my daughter. My mom and my brother, they were taking care of my daughter, while I was on the streets getting high, so they was taking care of her, and while I was out in Detroit, and my mom and my brother lived in Allen Park. So my daughter was only 3 years old, and my mom and my brother were taking care of her, like I said, when I was out doing crazy stuff. So at that time, that's when I had the body shop. And so one of the local drug dealers used to hang out at my shop, and he used to have, weed houses around the neighborhood. He told me, he said, "Hey, Clint, why don't you, start selling weed out of here? You don't have to do nothing but sell it. I'll bag it up. I'll buy the weed." Excuse me. He said, "I'll even send my customers over here. And all you got to do, I'll set everything up. All you have to do is just be here and serve them up." And so, like a foolish man, I was foolish back then. And so what happened was that I started selling weed out the shop. This was in 2003, a year before I gave my life to the Lord and got saved. 2003. So we started, he started bagging the weed up, and he started, bringing it over. He started sending his customers. I started selling them weed and stuff. And so yeah, it started going pretty good. I was making some good money, and we started hanging out. Me and this local drug dealer, we started hanging out. We started to, build a relationship up, going shopping together and going out to eat and things like that. And we, but after a little time I got into it, I found out that he wasn't giving me my share of the money. And so I was real stubborn back then. I was like, man, I found out. I said, "Hey, I heard that, you're not giving me all the money." He was like, "Yeah, I am, Clint. But I knew better, because I knew how much stuff costs. I know how much weed costs. I know how much a pound of weed costs. I know how much it costs when you break it up, how much the bags weigh. I knew all that. I knew, 1.5 grams for a bag." He was like, "Oh, I'm making them 2.5 grams. They're fat and all this." I said, "No, they're not. I know what they are. I'm selling them." So I said, "You know what?" I said, I'm cutting you out, man. I said, "I'm cutting you out." So I cut him out, and I started buying my own pounds of weed. And he didn't like that. He didn't like that because all his customers were still coming to the shop. All his customers were still coming to the shop, and he didn't like that because he was losing out money because, those was his customers, and they could have been buying weed from the other spot. His other spots, he had more than one spot. This is the extra one. So, yeah, he had a bunch of boys, in the neighborhood. I was by myself, I'm from the west side, and my shop was in Southwest Detroit. So, I didn't have anybody, I was by myself, but I didn't care because I'm born in the hood, and I didn't care. Like, I was stubborn. I was like, whatever, So he would ride by, have his sounds blast. He got his windows were tinted jet black, I couldn't even see in the car, so I didn't know what was going on by the cars. One day he rode by real slow, tinted windows, and I'm outside standing in front of the shop like, what you gonna do, So he rolled down the window. He had a gun pointed at me. He said, "Clint, I'm telling you, man, you better shut this place down. I'm gonna burn it down." He said, "I'm gonna burn it down if you don't shut it down." Right? I said, "I'm not shutting down nothing, man." He said, "I'm telling you, Clint, man, you better shut it down, bro." So I said, "Whatever, man." So he brought the window. He pulled off, right? I said, "Okay, all right, well, you got So he came back, a few days later, he posseed up, guys in the car. They pulled out in front of the shop again. And his boys in the back said, "Clint, man, I'm telling you, man, shut it down, man. I'm telling you, you know what I'm saying? Whatever, you better shut it down." I said, I'm like, "What's up? What y'all gonna do?" I'm by myself, I ain't got nothing, no gun, nothing. But just a big head, And, so I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. So, he sent his boys over there one time, and I had a gun at this time. So I was like, I'm gonna get me a gun, you know what I'm saying? So late at night, I heard somebody knocking on the door, and I had the gun behind my back, I cracked the door. It was all of them. "What's up, man? What's up, Clint?" They've been drinking and smoking, whatever, high and drunk. "What's up, man?" So they try to bust in the shop. So I pushed the door shut. They're banging on the door. So they busted out all my car windows. I had a car. They busted out all my windows. And at this time, I was so low and down in myself that I was actually staying in the shop. I lost my house. That's how bad I was on weed. I lost the house. I lost my house. And so I was staying at the shop. And so my car was outside, and they busted my windows out. I'm like, they didn't bust them all out. They busted out 3 or 4 of the back, a couple of the side windows, whatever. It wasn't a big deal. So I started parking my car in the shop. So, so he, and the final, I had a friend of mine. I had one friend, his name was Bobby. And he said, "Clint, man, he was the kind of guy who would do whatever, He didn't care." He said, so he hopped in the car with him and said, what do you want to do, Clint? So we drove by his house, and he said, what do you want to do? You want to blow his car up? Whatever, it don't matter. I'm thinking to myself, no, I don't want to do that, man, because if I do that, he's going to come back. It's going to be even worse, He said, "No, I did it." So I said, forget it. So, he told my brother, and my brother came by, and he said, "Clint, man, what's going on, man?" And I told him, he already knew. He said, "Man, you got to get out of here before they kill you, He said, "You kill them or you're going to be in jail." He said, "If you do that, Mom, she ain't going to be able to handle it, She can't handle that." And, okay, thank you for the sound. Yeah, okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. Okay, cool. It's Kyle. Yeah. So, so he started crying a little bit. I was like, "Man, all right, bro." I said, "I gotta paint this truck here." And I said, "As soon as I paint this pickup," I said, "I'm gonna come home, man, and I'm gonna shut it down." But at that time, also, I didn't know my mom was praying. My mom was praying that they would sell the building, and sure enough, they sold that building. They had it up for sale. They sold it. They were putting it up for sale. They didn't actually sell it into the end before I left, but I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, so So I said, okay, man. I told him, roll up. I'm gonna come home, man. As soon as I get done painting this van, this truck. It was a pickup truck. And so, but after that, they had all came over again, you know. And this time, you know, they wasn't playing. They were all out. I was by myself. There was some other people who was hanging out at the shop who just like to mooch on me because we always got high and stuff. So they would come over and just want to get high, you know, try to mooch or whatever. So yeah, but so this is the final finale. Me and the head dope guy, we were about to fight. We're in the street, in the middle of the street. We were about to fight, man. I said, you know. And I was being a cool type of guy, and I don't know why I said this, but he had his boys over there on the side, these young Mexican boys. And I was like, man, I went up to their face. I said, man, he don't love you, man. I said, this guy, he don't love you. He don't care about you. He's only using you guys, man. You know what I'm saying, to sell his weed and stuff. He don't care about you guys. You know what I'm saying? So then I went back to him, and I was like, he's like, man, Clint, you know, da 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 da. Man, I told you, man, you better shut it down, man. I ain't playing, man. I ain't playing. He was younger than me, too. He's like, I ain't afraid of you, Clint. I might be younger. He was not. He was like, you know, in his early 20s. I was in my 30s. He was like, I ain't scared of you, Clint. I said, I want you to be scared of me. You know what I mean? So I don't want to fight him, man. I never was that type of guy. I don't like to fight and stuff, man. So I just slapped him real hard, you know. I just slapped the heck out of him, man. He got mad. He threw a bottle at me, man, and we was like tussling and stuff. And then he got up and he ran out the shop. I said, "Yeah, went in the shop this time. We was fighting in the shop." He went outside and they, I don't know what happened. Everybody's out in the streets, man, and he just left. But yeah, after that, about a week after that, man, a guy come knocking on my door and he was like, "Yeah, he was like, I bought this place. It's my shop now." So I was like, "Wow. I gotta leave now." So that's how God did it, you know. God heard my mom's prayers, you know. And after that, you know, I went home. I shut the shop down. And I took all my stuff and I shut it down. And I went home, you know. I went home to stay with my brother and my mom at the time at Allen Park. And my daughter at that time, when she was about almost 4 years old, and you know, I was neglecting my daughter all that time, you know, like just you know. Just not being a good dad. It's like, you know, but that's how the streets had me, though. Streets had me pretty bad, you know. I couldn't, I would smoke weed all day. They call it wake and bake. I'll wake up smoking weed, go to bed smoking weed. So I had 3 vials of weed, the good stuff in the little vials. And so I went to stay with my mom, my brother. I had a van, too, out there. I had a van I had bought. So I'll go in that van, and it took me about a week or two to smoke them vials, and I smoked the rest of that weed up. And after that, you know, I started going to church. I started going back to church, you know. In 2004, on New Year's Eve, I made a decision. So I said, you know, I'm about to give my life to the Lord, you know, and I was still addicted at that time to the weed. But early 2005, I got baptized, and that's when I said, Lord, I'm going all out for you. You know, I'm gonna just go all the way for you. I'm gonna do it all for you, and so I did. I gave my life to the Lord, that was the time I started going to church in 2005, early 5. I got saved, and in mid 2005, I found a church home, you know, in Detroit called Metro Life. And about that time, my daughter, she was 4 years old, and when she got about 4.5 years old, I started taking her to church. And I never forced my daughter to go to church, you know. I never forced her to go to church. She always went to church because she wanted to go to church. She had friends, you know. My daughter had friends, and she just always liked to go to church, you know. And my daughter, she went to church because she wanted to go, not because I forced her and made her go. So and I raised her up in the church, you know. And I got my life right, and I was involved in the church, doing things and being a part of services, and I've been saved ever since, and I never fell back. I never slid back and went to the world I never went back into the world for a little bit and started doing it. You know, I never fell off. I've been going strong for the Lord since 2004. You know, so about 19 years, I believe. Yes, almost 20, 19 years. You know, yeah. So I've been saved all that time, and you know, it's been a great journey. Has everything been easy? No, it hasn't. You know, everything you do in life takes a challenge. You know. So what I wanted to say is that I raised my daughter up in the church. You know. And now she's a fine young woman of God. You know, like the Bible says that you have to make a choice, not just for you, but for your kids too, you know. What about your kids, you know? You have to make a choice for them. The Bible says, choose life so your kids and their kids can have life. So now listen to this. If I would have still been out in the streets and I didn't come home, my daughter, she would have been raised by her mom at this time. Her mom would have been raising her. And she would have been in the church. And she would have started a life of living in the streets like me. She would have followed my direction and seen what I was doing and think that was okay. But see, I made a choice as a dad and said, you know what, I'm coming home to raise my daughter the right way. You know, so when I came home, started taking her to church, you know what I'm saying? And now she's a fine young woman of God, you know? Now she takes her family, her brothers to church, you know, sold out for the Lord, just doing awesome things for God, you know. Now she's married to a young man of God that she met in the church. You know what I'm saying? None of that would have happened if I didn't get my life right. If I didn't get my stuff, if I didn't get my stuff together, my daughter, she wouldn't be where she is now. Now, do you see what I'm saying now? It's not just you, it's your kids too. So now my daughter is in church and she's loving God and she's loving people and she's doing things for people and just being a blessing to people. But it all starts from you guys, you know. All you parents out there watching who have kids, you got to do it. You got to be an example for them. Kids are like sponges. They soak up everything, you know. Everything that you do, they soak it up. They soak it up, everything that you do. So I'm about to end this real quick. I don't have a lot of topics, but because I wasn't prepared. I was basically just testing everything out, making sure it's working. But you're gonna see more of me. I'm gonna be posting on a certain day and a certain time. So, yeah, I just want to say I love you. Thank you for tuning in. There's gonna be more to come. Like I said, it's gonna be a great channel. I'm gonna have guests on the show. We're gonna be talking about things. I'm gonna have it where you can call in. I'm gonna have somebody actually reading the. I don't have time to read the the comments and stuff. But thank you guys so much. I love you guys. Thank you so much, Lori. And Nelly. Thank you guys. Love you guys. Kyle, you guys are great, man. And peace. Love you.